Hello everyone, I am Nila Veerabathina, an assistant professor of practice in the Department of Physics, College of Science at UT Arlington, and I have been part of professional learning community, which is PLC, since its inception 4 years ago, and I have been enjoying being part of it. My spring 2016 project is Synchronous Learning in an Asynchronous Environment for Orientation, Intervention, Interaction, and Student Retention. So the course that I chose for this project is the online course, which is an introductory astronomy course for non-science majors. This is an elective course, and usually the enrollment in face-to-face class of the same course is more than 400 per semester, and we capped it to 40 for the online section, and which usually fills up as soon as it opens up. And this course is mainly offered to the non-traditional students, and I have been teaching this online course for last 4 years every regular semester, but I never used any synchronous webinars. So this is my first experience doing the synchronous live webinars in this course. So as a part of this project, I planned 3 synchronous sessions. The first one was the orientation and interaction, and the second one is intervention and retention, and the third one, which I am going to deliver in a couple of weeks, is guidance and motivation. And all these 3 sessions are through Collaborate, which is a web-based conferencing tool that is integrated with Blackboard. The first session, orientation. The main goals of this session were to explain the details of every part of the syllabus and to make students familiar with the overall structure and format of the course. The assessment of the course is based on different elements. For example, quizzes, tutorials, which are animation based, and the simulation based, where students have to change the parameters, discussions, tests, final exam, and the lab work, where students have to download the software or download the worksheets and do the hands-on and minds-on stuff. So it is important for students to get familiar with all the elements, because the assessment is based on that. And also the goal was to create the social and the educational interaction among the students, so they can carry it on throughout the semester. So this session I plan to do 2 or 3 days after the beginning of the semester, because that gives the students some time to go through the syllabus, look at the different elements by themselves. And then I also posted the questions on the Blackboard on the discussion forum about the introduction, but I also did that in the live webinar, so students get to know each other more. And here are the sample slides that I used. For example, I started my webinar with this map, and if students are located in the DFW area, they had to pinpoint it somewhere here. If not in DFW area but somewhere else in Texas, then they have to circle on this map of Texas. Or if they are located somewhere outside Texas, then they can write the location here in the empty areas. This is the sample of the introduction questions that we discussed during the webinar. For example, what is your online experience, what is your astronomy experience, what is your learning environment. And students really enjoyed talking to each other and explaining their experience, and explaining, even if they didn't had any experience, they participated and tried to explain. And after going through all the different parts that they needed for the orientation in the course, at the end I also discussed the tips for the online learning, even though those are posted on the Blackboard, but it helped them, and I added some more, and I personally encouraged them and emphasized on those tips. The second session, the webinar that I did was the intervention session. The main goal of that session was to motivate the students to stay on track, because usually by the mid-semester some students start to slip off the track, especially if they are struggling in any part of the course. So my aim was to provide them some kind of scaffolding in struggling areas, and to guide them on the challenging topics, and to increase the student retention in the course, because that had been our issue last semester, because I knew students struggled through the lab. So this session was done before the drop date to help students in the struggling areas. So I gave them the free webinar questions, in which they had to answer where are they struggling, what are their challenges, and then during the webinar I tried to answer all their concerns, questions and challenges. And I find out again in this semester students were struggling with the lab part, so I co-delivered this with our lab instructor. And here let me show you the sample of our webinar number 2. So here it's a clip which is about 10 minutes long, but I am not going to play all of this. So here in the first part, we myself and the lab instructor showed to students how to use the software Stellarium, which they need to do some of the labs. And in the second part, we explained them how to use the protractor to draw the angles to know the orbits of planets. So here let me actually just scroll through this clip so you get some idea.
And again, that was what the lab was sort of based on. And if you were an expert at it, finding out how big Saturn appears.
So here we are trying to show them how to use different commands of the software, how to zoom into Saturn, how to draw the lines, and how to measure the angle from one end to another end. And then so this really helped students. And here zooming into Mercury to calculate its orbit. And the other lab that students usually struggle with is this one, where they have to draw the position of Mercury with respect to the Sun and Earth, and they have to draw the angles using the protractor. So we explained all of that to them, and that's how the graph should look like at the end. So students got to know how to do actually lab. And so one of the requirement was the post reflection to get the extra credit points. So as you can see over here, these are some that I have quoted. So here, as it says, I appreciate the opportunity to openly discuss questions and concerns in a setting that more resembles a classroom. Or here another one, After spending countless hours on Stellarium, I realized that there are lots of features that I am missing out. Or for example, lab professor cleared up some of the concerns that I had about doing the labs. I was scared at first. So that gives me an idea that students were struggling, and hopefully we helped them to stay in the course, and the labs are not as difficult as they might think. It's only just need some more explanation of how to do it, and that's what students really appreciated. The last session that I'm still have not done, that is due in a next couple of weeks, will be the guidance session. The main goal of that session will be to help students in the content related questions. So this will be done 1 or 2 weeks before the final exams, which is accumulative, and students have to prepare all 15 chapters for that. So sometimes students, at this time, students will know exactly where they are not, or their understanding is weak, because they will already be done by 3 tests at that time. So the pre-questions have already been posted on webinar. Students have to tell me where are their struggling areas in the topics, not in the course but in their content areas, and then I am planning to address those where most of the students are struggling, and help them and motivate them to do well in the, because students have lots of anxiety, especially for the final exam. So that's what my goal is for the upcoming session. So overall, I have enjoyed doing these sessions. My students have enjoyed, and so in future, in upcoming semesters, I would try to host more webinars to increase the teacher's presence as well as the social interaction. One of the challenges this semester was the participation. So the overall attendance was low. So I'm trying to explore more tools so that I can increase the students' participation in future. And I'm also planning to use Doodle for the next webinar as well as in the future semesters to schedule the webinars. That will help me to probably attract more students when its webinar is happening. So thank you everybody. Please feel free to drop any comments and or questions if you have. I will be very happy to answer. And here is my email address. So thanks once again.